When we play DFS, we want to target game environments in which we expect a lot of scoring. Vegas helps with this. They set the game totals, and the ones that are over 50, those are the games that usually look juicy. On this week's main slate, we have 50 game totals. It's a gross slate, ladies and gentlemen, but I do think there's some areas we can target, we can take advantage, and we're going to walk through that right after this.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Welcome into the Rumbles of Red. Thank you all for being here. And how did it go last week? How did it go for you in week 4? Let me know in the comments as I get through a little introduction here. Hasn't gone well for me through the first 4 weeks. I struck out. I've struck out often, but I've been on some good plays. We talked about some really good plays last week. I just haven't been able to put the 2 or 3 good plays together in the same lineup. Last week, I said, there's no way I'm playing Geno. I couldn't get there. I really wanted to play the stud quarterbacks, and Geno was obviously the right play. Came in about 5-6% in some of my tournaments that I was in. He looked like a fine play, but it just wasn't there for me. He ends up being a smash. Maybe I'm just trash at this game. I don't know. But it was a bad week again. Been tweaking my process just a little bit this week, hoping to make some minor changes and bring it all together. Hopefully it'll pay off this week. Before we get too far into this episode, please hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribe to the channel. I'm looking to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. We started with 52 tonight, so hopefully we can increase that number by a few. So again, if you hadn't subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We check how we doing. What happened to your partner on ADP? Nothing happened to Dan. He is out for a couple weeks. He's off to get married. So he's doing big things there. Want to wish him nothing but the best of luck. So it'll just be me kind of holding down the fort for another damn fantasy podcast for a couple weeks. Nothing wrong with that. Have some guests on this upcoming week, hopefully, if I can make that work. So we'll still have some fun. We'll still talk through season-long fantasy for another damn fantasy podcast, where I'll talk DFS here every Friday night with you all, 8:15. Tonight we're going to run through how to understand projections. I talked a lot about that over the past couple weeks. I've been talking through with you all who's the value play, who's popping points per dollar. I thought maybe it'd be awesome to show you Fantasy Labs, which is what I use. The one I use pulls the projections from Established to Run, who I think is great at their projections. They're really good with their ownership projections and their actual point projections. And so that's what I use, and I'm just going to show you guys what that looks like and kind of talk through that. We're going to talk through position by position, who the studs this week. There's a little bit of value on this slate, so I really want to get through that. Of course, we'll talk stacking options and then utilize those stacking options into building some lineups as we do every week. Megan, what is going on? Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Everybody go follow the Indie Intercept podcast on Twitter. Megan goes live twice a week at this point as a recap show and as a preview show. As a Colts fan, you got to be a little bit happy from Thursday, but also probably a little bit upset, or maybe a lot upset, because your team only scored 12 points. But Megan had me on the show a couple weeks ago after the Colts handed the Chiefs their only loss of the season. Great show over there, and y'all should check that out. Is Bridgewater a good low-cost quarterback? Tyler, we are going to get to quarterbacks. Keep that question for me here. I want to pull up Fantasy Labs first, talk through some projections here, kind of give you guys an idea where I am getting some of my information and why when I tell you, a play is projecting to be good, this is kind of what I'm looking at. Now, these things change over time, right? It's not going to necessarily be perfect tonight because we still have, probably 36 hours until game time. So things definitely change until then. So let me pull this up for you. Working through projections. This is kind of just one view of a projection. This is really also an option to lineup builds and optimizers. Again, this is through Fantasy Labs, but I pull the establish a run projections over to Fantasy Labs, which kind of helps. But as we're looking at, that's what I like. As we're looking at quarterbacks, let me get this a little larger for you all. That might be too large. Oh, man. All right. Can't go too large. Sorry, guys. As we look at quarterbacks for this week, right? So projections is obviously just your baseline projection. Everybody has projections. Whether you're playing season long or DFS, there's always projections on how well a player is going to do. But in DFS, we want to look at that projection and we want to compare it to the price that we're paying for that player. But also, how does it compare to other players in that same position, right? So if we look at Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts currently, Josh Allen's projected 26, Jalen Hurts 24.5, but Jalen Hurts is $400 less. So really their points per value is about the same. Now, does that mean we should play one over the other automatically because they project more points? Absolutely not. But this is one step towards helping you build your lineups. The next step for me, as I kind of look at where they are and how they all fit together, is the projected ownership. And we talk a lot about this. And when I tell you there's some good plays and some bad plays, a lot of it comes from this. Josh Allen, 28.5. Jalen Hurts, 20.5. So where's everybody going this week? Right back to the well where we went last week. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. They're two studs. They got running value. And they're absolutely easy plays every single week. Unfortunately, they do come at a high price. And so that's where you have to really weigh, do you want to continue to pay up for quarterback each and every week? Right now, the ownership projections are showing that a lot of people are doing that. So you can go through any projections again. You find your own sites that you like, but we're not only looking at the points projection, but we really need to look at that projected ownership as well. And ideally, we find the really good plays at lower ownership, right? Derrick Henry last week was a really good play. I think he was like 6%, 7% in my small field tournament with 112 entries, 6-7%, and you go off for 25 points. Now you're surpassing everybody else in that small field. That's why we want to use that leverage to beat out our competitors. It's not only everybody can see Derrick Henry is projected for 17.5 points this week, right? But if everybody else plays him and you go somewhere else and you get 17.5, but Derrick Henry fails, now you've got leverage on your opponents. So I want to try to teach as well as we go throughout the season. Just try to give you little nuggets that you can use as you do your lineup builds each and every week. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful and allows you to understand a little bit when I talk about projected ownership and rostership and projected points and the value, those kind of things. This is where I'm looking, and I'm just trying to find the best plays, and I'm trying to provide you the best plays. And then it's up to you to really put all the pieces together, because clearly through 4 weeks, I have not been able to. All right, let's get into our quarterback plays of the week. Tyler asked earlier, is Bridgewater a good low-cost quarterback? For me, I could show you, you just saw on the projections, like he's projecting fine. He's projecting as one of the better values on the slate. I feel like it might be a little thin. The Jets are obviously a bad football team, so anytime you can pick on them, it's hard not to. I think he's just really a cheap option. Of course, he's going to save you some salary. He's pushing 10% rostered. I personally would rather go with Dolphins pass catchers. If Tyreek's not going to play, which he's got that quad injury, it's Jalen Waddle. Maybe it's Tyreek if he does play. Maybe you go with some running backs there in Miami. So I want a piece of this game, and I want a piece of this Miami offense. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get to a Teddy Bridgewater in this offense. I like Eckler there. You probably saw that in the projections, and we can talk about Eckler here in a little while. And you're going Trevor's better half, the red rifle, Andy Dalton, in a good matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. Again, not something I'm going to go with, unless I guess you could be talking about the new red rifle, Cooper Rush, right? But anyways, Andy Dalton against Seattle. Jameis, not sure if he's going to play again yet this week. Again, a game I kind of want some pieces to, but not a game I want any of the quarterbacks in this week. One quarterback I do want, obviously, we just talked about him at the top, Jalen Hurts, 8,600, projecting around that 25% ownership, and you kind of got to go right back to the well with this stud quarterback. Arizona's got a bad defense, and Arizona's offense is serviceable enough to really push this Eagles team. Plus, it's in the afternoon. It's that late game part of the slate, which we love to see. Allows you to get a little bit weird at the noon games or the 1 p.m. games, depending on where you're at. It allows you to get a little bit weird and then kind of be a little bit more chalky with your quarterback play. If your weird mini stack gets, if it busts, then maybe you got to come off of Hurts late. But we'll talk through that here when we build some lineups. Jalen Hurts is my favorite quarterback this week. Another guy in the same game, Kyler Murray. He's going to be very low owned. He's on the other side of Jalen Hurts, and this is a guy that I will probably use as my late swap option this week. He's 8,100, so he's cheaper than Jalen Hurts. So if I build a lineup with Jalen Hurts, I can quickly swap to a sub 5% Kyler Murray, be different, and potentially move up the leaderboard if Kyler hits, and Jalen Hurts can still be good, but the whole contest moves together while Kyler Murray owners are moving ahead of them. Another guy I like is Tom Brady, 7,800, sub 10%. He's projecting right now at 7.5% roster. Last week, 385 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Chiefs. He looked really good. He was overshadowed by Patrick Mahomes, though, because the Chiefs' offense was so dominant in that game. Nobody really talked about the way Tom Brady played. He's got a healthy Chris Godwin now. Mike Evans came back from the suspension, and Tom Brady played really well, considering at least the stats at the end of the day were great for fantasy. Now he gets all of those weapons back. Another week of Chris Godwin being healthy, and he gets a bottom 10 pass defense into the Atlanta Falcons. I really like some Tom Brady double stacks. I don't really like his $700-800 price tag on FanDuel. That one kind of hurts because there's a couple guys a little bit cheaper than that I like, and I'd also rather just pay the $800 more to get to Jalen Hurts. But I don't think you can go wrong here with a Tom Brady. Double stack him. It looks like Pitts is probably going to be out this week, so maybe you bring back what's going to end up being a chalky Drake London. But again, you can eat a little bit of that chalk because you're going to be different by not only playing Brady, but double stacking Brady in that roster. One more guy that I like, we just talked right here, league. Yes, Trevor Lawrence, good this week with Christian Kirk. Absolutely. Trevor Lawrence going against the Houston Texans, 7,600, and he's looking to be sub 5% rostered. Lawrence, he's got the ability. We've seen it through the first 4 weeks. He can carve up this bad Houston defense. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram potentially. You can kind of really slide in your tight end there. Zay Jones has showed up here and there. So don't be afraid to run out a guy like Trevor Lawrence against a Houston Texans defense that is just straight bad. You going Kirk Cousins here? Is that what we're talking about, Trent? I'm not on the Kirk Cousins train this week. Just can't really bring myself there. Now, obviously, if I am playing Kirk Cousins, I'm most definitely playing Justin Jefferson, and I'm probably double stacking him with either Irv or Adam Thielen as well. He is cheaper, 7,100. He's projecting okay. Points per dollar, he's not bad by any means, sub 10% rostered. So it's got a lot of good stuff there. Honestly, the reason I'm staying completely away is the Chicago Bears are absolutely atrocious. And in terms of, we talked about Atlanta and Houston being really bad defenses. I'm going to talk about Detroit here in a minute because we're about to get to running backs, and we always talk about the Detroit defense against running backs, right? But these bad defenses also have decent offenses, at least serviceable offenses that can run some plays. Chicago, they're slow, they're bad, and every game they play in is like one of the lowest amount of play games in the NFL that week. And that's why I just don't think there's going to be enough plays in that game, enough opportunities for Kirk Cousins to be the optimal quarterback on the week and win you some money. Yeah, I like that. Average dad Kirk. Man, I'm an average dad, but that's all right. That's what we're all here for, right? Average dad Kirk Cousins. All right, let's talk running backs. Let's move on. Any other quarterbacks you want to mention? Real quick before I move on. Any other quarterbacks you want? Didn't talk about Josh Allen. I mean, most expensive guy on the slate from the quarterback perspective, right? He's always going to be there, I guess. I can't get into him this week. It hasn't felt great. I'm going to pull up this, make sure I don't miss anybody. Again, against a Pittsburgh team that I'm not sure how Kenny Pickett's going to look. Didn't talk Justin Herbert. I'll talk a little bit about him later. Who am I missing here? Davis Mills. I can't do Davis Mills. I don't mind like a Brandon Cooks bring back. Dameon Pierce is going to be pretty chalky this week, but if you use him in a bring back, maybe so. But I'm not big on Davis Mills. I think we're just getting a lot of it too thin there. Bills aren't that good. Yeah, we're biased around these parts. Maybe they're not that good, but Josh Allen is that good. Like Josh Allen is definitely that good, and he gets you there every single week in fantasy. So that's why, that's why he's always projecting to be the best. But this week at 9K, I'd rather save and go to Jalen Hurts or save even more and go elsewhere. All right, let's go to running back for real this time. Who are your favorite running backs out there for this week? There are plenty of options, I think, at running back. And I think this is probably one of the places you're going to make or break your tournament plays this week. I'm going to start here with Dalvin Cook, 7,300. He's looking to be chalky, looking 30%, which, to me, in my 112 person contest, man, he's probably going to push 35, maybe 40%. That's just the way it works in smaller fields. It gets condensed a little bit more. I don't think Dalvin Cook is a must start, but $7,300 is way, way too cheap for Dalvin Cook on FanDuel. Jamal Williams is $700 more than Dalvin Cook. Look at this. $700 more than one Dalvin Cook. We're looking at running backs. I mean, you have to scroll. Oops. You have to scroll to find Dalvin Cook down here against that Bears defense that I talked about how slow they are. It doesn't necessarily matter as much for running backs because, of course, Minnesota is hopefully going to just get a lead and just keep pounding the rock with Dalvin. But 7,300 is just way too cheap. He's I didn't notice this before. He's the same price as Alexander Mattison. What are we doing, FanDuel? Why is he the same price as Alexander Mattison? What are we doing? Whatever. No wonder he's so chalky this week, right? Like he's going to be super chalky on FanDuel. He's been frustrating this season. It just feels like a no-brainer, though. That's too cheap for a guy like Dalvin Cook with that type of explosion and a guy who can really break the slate. Another guy I'm going to this week is Damian Harris, just $100 cheaper than Dalvin Cook at $7,200. And this guy's sub 10%. And just mentioned the Detroit Lions defense. We're always picking on them, and that's why I'm going Damian Harris this week, because the Detroit Lions lack defense. Like, they're so bad. Rashad Penny just carved this team up last week. I don't know how you're so bad against the run 2 years in a row like this. Like, it feels like the Detroit Lions have not improved at all on defense. Ramondre Stevenson, he's usually the guy I'm on here touting each and every week for the Patriots. He's $1,200 cheaper than Damian Harris, but Ramondre Stevenson is bringing in 25, probably close to 30% ownership this week because of that cheap price tag. So I want to get a little bit contrarian. I'll pay for the top priced New England Patriots running back and take Damian Harris this week against the Detroit Lions. Is Cook hurt? Half-ass hurt? I'm not sure. Is there something out there about that? Maybe he is. Maybe that's what's going on this week. Maybe I missed that. He might be hurt. Let's see who else you guys are talking about here. Dameon Pierce. Absolutely. Dameon Pierce in a pretty good spot here. He's not on my necessarily list, but he's not outside of my player pool either. Just not a guy I've really actually been on yet. I talked about it in my season-long podcast this week, just about how he wasn't a guy I bought into preseason, and he hasn't really been a guy I've jumped on board with yet this year. Maybe that's a flaw in my game, but I haven't got to Dameon Pierce yet. I'll give you a quick projection on it. Looks like he's 14 points, somewhere in there. Top 10 in projected running back. Price point per dollar is pushing to an even 2 value, and he is sub 7%. So if he smashes against the Jaguars, maybe it's a good bring back. I thought he was going to be chalkier than that, but this is not showing that he's super chalky here on Fanduel. So could be a good option for you. Khalil Herbert here. Got to go back to the well. I don't know what's going on with David Montgomery. Did he quit football or so? I didn't think he was that injured, but it doesn't sound like he's going to play again this week. So maybe he is just that injured. Right now, Khalil Herbert is not popping in any of the projections because they're projecting Montgomery to be in. So that's something to keep an eye on. If that becomes late Sunday news, Khalil Herbert might come in super under-owned compared to last week. Brian Robinson definitely practiced this week. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing this week or not. Definitely not something I'm going to be chasing. And yes, Cook does have the shoulder issue. You are correct. He's got that. He dislocated a couple weeks ago, but he's got some kind of harness on there. I mean, it's Dalvin Cook. The guy is going to break the slate, and we're all going to be sleeping. Hopefully he does it this week when everybody's sleeping and I'm playing him. All right, let's hope. Another running back I want to talk about here is Raheem Mostert. $5,800 sub 10% ownership versus the New York Jets. If we're not picking on the Detroit Lions for the run game, we're definitely picking on the New York Jets. Mostert had over 70% of the snaps last week for Miami. He is the lead back. He has been the lead back for multiple weeks in a row. Over 70% is a huge amount for a running back. The Miami Dolphins obviously running out Teddy Bridgewater as their backup quarterback this week. I think they could lean on the run game a little bit more. Chase Edmonds has found the end zone, right? He's the one that's found the end zone. Raheem Mostert has not found the end zone, but all the underlying stats, all the stats that you don't find in the box score, all that leans toward Raheem Mostert. At $5,800 and sub 10%, I think this is somebody that we're kind of sleeping on that could definitely come out of this game with 2 touchdowns. That's not outside the realm of possibility. This is a fun little 1 p.m. or 12 p.m., depending on where you live. This is a fun first set of games stack, right? Get Raheem Mostert and maybe an Elijah Moore, who's a little bit cheaper. Have that mini stack out of a game that we want a piece of. It's going to be low owned. It's going to be cheap. We'll see how it does before we go into our Philadelphia chalky, expensive double stack. This is good to know. This is good to know. I definitely am a little bit behind on the news this week. So if you hear something or see something, let me know. David Montgomery, full practice today. Maybe that means he'll be in this week. If so, I don't think Herbert or Montgomery is viable option. I think if Montgomery misses, and it's definitely if it's a late, then Herbert won't get steamed. He could be a sneaky play. A couple other points per dollar plays that establisher runs player model is popping. Devin Singletary at 6K. The Bills have the highest team implied point total of the week. I think it's something like 31. So anytime you can get a piece of 31 points, you're gonna like that. Alvin Kamara, man, earlier in the week I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Alvin Kamara 7K against the Seattle Seahawks. I want some Alvin Kamara. He is pretty. He is not sneaky. He's pushing 25-30%, which I talked about that earlier, right? If I'm talking about that with a guy like Dalvin Cook, who has the role and I think could smash, I don't mind 30%. When I talk about a guy like Kamara, who we haven't really seen his role with this new offense quite much yet, that bothers me a little bit. Plus, there's Andy Dalton, so there's a lot more question marks around this one. He definitely has the same slate breaking ability that Dalvin Cook has. He's $300 cheaper. But if he does flip over the cards and he's 25-30%, we're not going to be very happy with having him on our team. I don't think that would be very good chalk. Leonard Fournette's popping at 7.8K and Jeff Wilson at 6,500. I do like Jeff Wilson, but it's really been talked a whole lot about within the fantasy community across multiple platforms. Jeff Wilson just doesn't get the goal line touches that we want to see. That kind of might keep his ceiling down a little bit, but at 6,500, he's a cheaper option there in the afternoon slate. All of these guys I just mentioned, they're all popping for, over 20% ownership. So this might be the decision point. I said it right when we started the running backs, but this is the decision point of the week. What are you going to do at running back? Where are you going to go? Because there's a lot of chalk here, and there's a lot of what's popping to be bad plays that are more expensive. Are you going to be contrarian and get off of any of these plays? Or are you just going to mix and match a couple of these chalky plays and get different elsewhere in your lineup? This is the decision point of the week for me. Any other running backs you guys want to hear about before we move on to wide receiver? If you haven't already, hit that like button, show some love. It's free. Doesn't cost any money. Hit a like button. Show some love. Trent, you're getting ahead of us here, man. Like, I haven't even started talking about wide receivers, and you're throwing them all out here. Corey Davis? All right, let's jump in here. I'll jump into wide receiver. Who else is your favorite wide receiver? I like the Robert Woods call. No Treylon Burks this week. Are you really going to get a lot of points in that game, though? That would be my problem with Robert Woods. Oh, Bobby Trees. Corey Davis is thin, man. Corey Davis is thin. Don't like that at all. More power to you if it hits. Just not something I'm willing to go to. Not something I'm willing to trust. Not this week. I am going to trust Deebo Samuel, though. $7,300 again. Another guy that's just way, way too cheap on Fanduel. And I can't talk about wide receivers without my boy Deebo. One of my favorite NFL players. Outside of the Chiefs, he is my favorite player to watch. My favorite player to have on my fantasy teams. Everything about Deebo. I mean, the dude took a 4-yard slant 56 yards into the end zone last week. I mean, it was amazing. He's a beast. I absolutely love watching Deebo play. And at $7,300, super underpriced. He's an absolute smash for week 5. But be careful. We keep talking about it. I want to keep reminding you because we can't just play all these chalky plays. We're not going to win anything. If you're playing cash, whatever. Play your best plays. Play your favorite plays. It doesn't matter. But what I'm playing, I'm playing exclusively small field, single entry tournaments. And Deebo Samuel, 35%. He might push 50% rostered in small field stuff because his price is just way, way too cheap on FanDuel. He got the old Monday night cheap play. You know, they set the salaries before the games, and then he goes off in the game. And now he's got a really nice spot against the Panthers this week. So I'm going to be firing up a lot of Deebo. I'm just going to try to mix and match around him so my lineup doesn't end up too chalky, even though I'm going to be playing a chalky play there. Mike Evans, 7,500. He's sub 15%, a lot less chalky here. This is just a really odd price point for him. I just talked about the $7,300 Deebo. So if we're looking in this range, most people are probably going to be going towards Deebo or maybe even a CeeDee Lamb who's in this range. Or you can save $500 and go down to Chris Godwin, Mike Evans' running mate, right? So this is kind of an odd spot because I just don't think a lot of people are going to go to Mike Evans when they have other what looks to be and projects to be better options in the same salary range. That could keep his ownership down quite a bit. And he's a touchdown machine. I talked about Tom Brady earlier. I don't mind playing a Mike Evans one-off. I don't mind playing a Mike Evans, Drake London mini stack out of this game, right? Because Mike Evans is the touchdown machine. Tom Brady looks Mike Evans' way all the time once they get into the red zone. And he's definitely projecting still pretty well for this week. I like Mike Evans at 7,500. Let's see who else you guys are talking about before I get to my last one that might be a little bit surprising to you all. Miami pass defense is trash. Yes, you are correct. I agree with you there. But is Zach Wilson good? And what about Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson? What about those guys? I mean, that's why I'm kind of off on Corey Davis. I think they got the running backs into a little bit more. Breece Hall was more involved last week. Corey Davis, not sure about that. Mac Hollins, I'm not chasing Mac Hollins anymore. I actually think Hunter Renfrow put in a full practice this week. Is that correct? I think I saw where he had put in a full participant at practice today. So no, I'm off the Mac Hollins train. Mac Hollins was really good that 1 week. He was even better on DraftKings as full point PPR. He wasn't as great on FanDuel, but still he was solid. Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch's role is dead. With Rondale Moore back. Again, he's kind of like a Mac Hollins, right? We're a couple weeks past those guys. The guys they were filling in for are back. Rondale ran. He didn't do very good last week, but he was, I think it was probably 90% of the snaps. So he's running routes. He's fully taken over this role back from Greg Dortch. Dortch did a really good job filling in for him, but it seems like it's Rondale's job to lose at this point. So I'm definitely not going Dortch. And I'm glad you brought this one up. This is a perfect segue for me here, Trent. Gabe Davis or Isaiah McKenzie. So Isaiah McKenzie is probably not going to play this week. It's not looking great for him. And if he doesn't play, you could go Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis has an ankle injury that he's been trying to play through. He hasn't looked great the last 2 weeks. You could go up to Steph Diggs, or you could punt to a $5,000 Khalil Shakir. He's going to play in the slot for Isaiah McKenzie if Isaiah McKenzie misses. Currently, all the projections show Isaiah McKenzie playing. All the reports are trending towards Isaiah McKenzie not playing. So again, if it becomes 10 a.m. on Sunday morning and inactives come out and Isaiah McKenzie is out, I think Khalil Shakir is a really good play this week. Super cheap, $5,000. What do you need? Like 4 catches and 60 yards to pay this off. Maybe not even that much, right? I like Shakira in that slot for Buffalo. Again, this isn't like a game I'm heavily targeting like I have in the past with the Buffalo Bills, but playing a guy like Shakir with a should have good volume. He'll definitely be out running the routes. He'll be the main slot guy for Josh Allen in a team that has the highest team implied point total of the week. Plus, it opens up all that salary. So that's why I would go with a Khalil Shakir this week if Isaiah McKenzie misses at $5,000. A couple other guys here that are popping in the projections. Drake London, 6,200. Kyle Pitts hasn't practiced all week, so if he's out, I think Drake London gets even more boosts with his projections, but I also think his ownership will really start to get steamed. Tyreek at 8,400. I mentioned it earlier. He's got a quad injury going on, but if he plays, he's projected to do pretty well there in Miami. Cooper Kupp. Of course, Cooper Kupp is projecting well, right? 9,500. Kind of surprised, almost 25% projected ownership at 9,500. I'm not really interested in Cooper Kupp this week. I think the price is too much. There's too much value everywhere else. Like, not so much value that you can get up to Cooper Kupp. But if you can, whatever. I just think you're overpaying for a guy who's got an inflated ownership and against a really, really good Dallas defense. This offensive line for LA has been pretty bad. And this Dallas defense, this pass rush has really been good. And so I think that a lot of people just see Cooper Kupp. He's phenomenal. He had 14 catches last week. Like, he's great, right? But I don't think he's in a very good spot this week. And I think paying $9,500 is just too expensive. Pitts is out. Okay. So I hadn't seen that yet, but I knew that he hadn't played all week. So that's good. Kyle Rudolph with Bray out might be best value. He's a tight end. I'm not the tight ends yet. There's actually a different tight end there in Tampa Bay that I'm going to talk about today. Romeo Doubs for the Packers. I like Romeo Doubs. This Packers team just doesn't pass very much. They just don't have a high passing volume. And so when we're playing DFS, like, I would be willing to flex Romeo Doubs in a season-long league if I didn't have a lot of options. But in DFS, like, there's just other guys who are projecting for more volume and potentially better outcomes, and definitely a better range of outcomes than Romeo Doubs has. Ben Skowronek, Tyler. I think that's the guy you're looking for there. Ben Skowronek. Again, he's cheaper, but if I'm going to go cheap, I'd rather go Khalil Shakir in a higher point game, a better offense, and not playing the Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's move on to tight end here. Who are you looking at? This week is ugly. No Mark Andrews on the main slate. No Travis Kelce. No Darren Waller. Who's your favorite tight end? No Kyle Pitts. Who's your favorite tight end? Let's go look at him first. Before I talk about mine, let's look at him. What are our options at tight end? What are our options? You got TJ Hawkinson, 7K. George Kittle, 6,500. Man, where's George Kittle been this year? Gerald Everett, 6,300. Dallas Goedert, 6,100. Taysom Hill is not even a tight end, but still here at 6,000. Zach Ertz, Freiermuth, and Njoku. Higbee, 55. You want to keep chasing Will Disley? What does he have, like 2 catches and 7 touchdowns this year? Excuse me. He has 12 catches and 3 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. I'm not chasing Will Disley, that's for sure. Dawson Knox is out? I did not know Dawson Knox was out. That makes me want to play Shakir even more. Let's go. Y'all, when Shakir, let me fix this. the hell's going on? There we go. Listen, Shakir's going to make us some money this week, guys. I'm telling you. Shakir's going to make us some money. All right. I am going to talk about Tyler Higbee. $5,500. 30%. He is by far the projected highest owned tight end on the week. And I'm going to mention Tyler Higbee because I do not want to play Tyler Higbee. He is projecting to be the best play on FanDuel. $5,500. He's practically their second wide receiver because Allen Robinson is apparently bad at football. Tyler Higbee could be the guy. Maybe he's the guy we all need, right? Everybody played Chalk Hawkinson last week and it hit. You want to go chase that? You can. I'm not playing Tyler Higbee this week. If one person at tight end is separating themselves that much in projected ownership where everybody else is just a flat line, sub 10%, nobody else is getting steamed at all, that's an easy fade for me. And next week, maybe I'll come here and I'll tell you how bad week 5 was, just like I had to tell you how bad week 4 was. I'm okay with that because I think Tyler Higbee is a bad play in DFS tournaments on FanDuel this week. Cash play, easy. Put him in your lineup, whatever. Roll with it. Everybody else is going to do that. But in a tournament play, I can't play a guy who's going to be rostered 30, 40% of the time in a tournament at $5,500. I just don't want that. Easy fade for me this week, Tyler Higbee. Really, for me, there's not like one or two guys that are just like, oh, I got to play this guy. Because there's no studs, right? George Kittle used to be a stud. TJ Hawkinson, I'm not going to chase him. There's no real studs out there this week. A lot of just bad plays and really nothing feels great. So my priority this week at tight end is to lean into the double stacks. If I'm going to play Jalen Hurts, I'm going to play Dallas Goedert, right? So I play Hurts and Smith and Goddard, Hurts and Brown and Goddard, whatever it is. If I'm going to play Gerald Everett, it's going to be with a Justin Herbert double stack. Herbert, Mike Williams, Gerald Everett. I'll play Evan Ingram with Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk. So I'm going to double stack these quarterbacks, especially in my small field tournaments, and I'm just going to bring the tight end with them. Because the way I'm going to build a lineup, I'm going to essentially be saying like, hey, this quarterback hits. This is the best quarterback on the slate, and he's going to bring this tight end with him. I just can't really get into any other way to play tight end right now. I've been building lineups all week just to kind of see what goes where, what fits. And I just haven't found a really good way outside of just putting them in my double stacks. Nothing else feels good at tight end this week. Maybe you guys feel differently. Maybe you all feel differently. Dawson Knox is out. I'm not sure why. I just saw it on FanDuel though. Absolutely. Tyler Conklin with Zach Wilson. If you're going to run out of Zach Wilson, you're going to play either Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore. Take your pick. And then you can play Tyler Conklin. Double stack it up. Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is probably one of the few that you could run him back as a bring back in a Jalen Hurts double stack. But for me, I'm going to play Goddard if I'm playing Jalen Hurts. So maybe I go Zach Ertz if I need to get off the Eagles chalk because my early games flopped. Maybe I switch over and I go a Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown, Zach Ertz double stack, and then I bring back a Devontae Smith or an AJ Brown, something like that. I'm not opposed to doing something like that. No, and no. There's no way I'm playing Cole Kmet. No way I'm going there. Irv, if you're gonna double stack Kirk Cousins, I mean, you brought up Kirk Cousins earlier. If you want to double stack Kirk Cousins, absolutely you can play Irv. Not necessarily somewhere I'm going this week. Again, I'm pretty well just going to bring my tight ends with my quarterbacks this week. All right, let's get into the defense so then we can start building some lineups here. 49ers at 4,400. They're the chalk defense of the week, guys. Rightfully so. They're really, really good. I think 4,400 is probably too cheap. Seattle is the cheap option there for chalk this week. In tournaments, we don't want to play these guys, right? Defense has such little separation, but it takes one defense to score one touchdown to really separate. That's what you have to have. If you really want to separate, you can't have a defense that gives up a ton of points, and you find a defense that scores. Sacks are a great way on FanDuel. If you rack up 4, 5, 6 sacks in a game, which San Francisco can do. But for me, I'm actually going to go a different route because I don't want these chalky defenses because it's such a slim margin. I like New England. $3,600 against the Detroit Lions. Very low owned. The Lions still going to be without DeAndre Swift. Probably no Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, Detroit has been looking great on offense. They've really been taking advantage of some of their opponents, right? Like Seattle is obviously pretty bad at defense. So I don't mind rolling out a New England defense. It's a little bit contrarian. Plus, you're not going to have any ownership there, and you're not paying up at all for defense if you go at them at 3,600. Dallas defense is going to be great. They're also on if you guys play on DraftKings, Dallas defense is probably going to be like 40% because apparently they're super undervalued on DraftKings. But for me on FanDuel, Dallas is just a little too expensive up at 4,100. I like to play a little cheaper options. If I can get to Dallas, they do play in the afternoon slate, so that's not terrible. Let's see what I assume their ownership is pretty high on FanDuel as well. It's actually pretty well been in check so far. So, you might have opened me up to something. I might not hate that Dallas play. That's something I'm going to have to look into a little bit more because 4,100, like, I get it. You can definitely get there. But right now, Established Run has them at 3%. So if I can get them down at 3%, while San Francisco and Seattle and New Orleans are up over 10%, Minnesota's at 10%. The Rams on the other side of this Dallas game is at 9%. So if I can flip the build and go Dallas, I don't hate that at all. That could definitely be an option here. All right, who are your favorite stacks of the week? You stacking games? You stacking particular quarterbacks? Where are you going this week? Where are we going here? I'm going Hurts double stacks. Got to ride with it. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. He's been great. And he's been bringing his guys along with him. Now, the other end of this is, maybe Kenneth Gainwell runs it in for a touchdown, and Miles Sanders gets a touchdown, and all these running, and Jalen Hurts runs for a touchdown, right? So he's not necessarily bringing his pass catchers with him. But I do like Devontae Smith the best out of them. He's a lot cheaper than A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert, of course. Another one I like is Trevor Lawrence double stacks in this Jaguars-Houston game. Oh, man. Super low owned, I think, and really cheap. Trevor Lawrence coming in at sub 5%. Christian Kirk, he's at only 10%, right? We're just talking ownerships here. Evan Ingram, 1.5%. So give me this Jaguars offense here with Trevor Lawrence at the helm. You could maybe sprinkle in a little Travis Etienne because if they're passing the ball, it's going to be him. I also don't mind James Robinson. So it's not like I'm saying you have to play him instead, but I like Trevor Lawrence double stacks here this week. And then my third stack of the week is not even has anything to do with the quarterback. Rather, I'm going to go a little mini stack with the Bucks and the Falcons. I talked earlier about Mike Evans, Drake London. It's probably one of my favorite mini stacks of the week. It's going to be a little chalky on the Falcons side of it with Drake London, but Mike Evans should lower that a little bit, should kind of equal itself out. I like the Bucks Falcons mini stacks in the dome there in Atlanta. Trevor Lawrence with Christian Kirk and Dameon Pierce bring back. We talked a little bit about that earlier. I don't mind that at all. Take all the Jags. Seriously, I like the Jags this week. I like the Jags this week. Chargers didn't make my stacks the week this week, but you better believe I'm going to build a Justin Herbert double stack. He's kind of the one I build every week. He's the one I build every week. Justin Herbert double stack. Got to have it. One of these days it's going to pay me some money, hopefully. Don't mind that at all. Cooper Rush to Gallup. CeeDee Lamb might be missing this game. I don't mind Michael Gallup. He was out there. First game back, he was out there running routes the whole game. Very involved in the offense. So Michael Gallup there, especially if CeeDee Lamb misses. Run a little skinny stack. Maybe if you can afford it, you can maybe get Cooper Kupp in there if you want to. This week I had a pre-built lineup just because I was playing with it and I already left it up. So let's talk through this lineup and then we'll build another one. As I talk through this one, if you have a lineup that you would like to see, a stack that you want me to build a lineup around, throw it in the comments. And let's see if what it would look like if we built a stack around it. So let's see what my thoughts were here because, again, this is just me playing around with building lineups, and here it was. So I'm not even sure what this is. A $5. I don't even know when I built this lineup, but it was still on my Fanduel, so we'll just talk through it. Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. So I talked to you guys about that. I am not having anybody in a bring back on this lineup, so that's interesting. Probably not something I would end up with. I really like Hollywood Brown as a bring back here, guys. Hollywood Brown, let's see. Where's he at? He's not going to be owned. Surely not, right? Yeah, 3.5%. Don't mind that. He's definitely going to be my main bring back here. I got an Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saints, little secondary stack. This was probably before I saw the Alvin Kamara roster shifts, probably when I built this. I talked about Raheem Mostert earlier. A little mini stack here. Mostert with Moore, Mostert with Garrett Wilson, somewhere in there. I like that a little bit. You can flip that. You could go Breece Hall with Tyreek, Breece Hall with Jalen Waddle. I like this Miami, New York game early in the day. Find some type of mini stack around that. And then I've got Debo and Cooper Kupp in the afternoon. And honestly, at this point, it's just putting them in for some salary, right? So if I need to flip off of this, I can in a hurry, and I have a whole bunch of salary to play with. Debo is super chalky, but he's in the afternoon, so I can go ahead and just slide him into my lineup. And I can go ahead and, late swap later, but I like him in the lineup. And if everything goes well, Alvin Kamara scores 2 touchdowns, whatever. Raheem Mostert and Elijah Moore, that becomes a shootout. And these two guys are getting a lot of the action. Great. Now I can play all this chalk in the afternoon. All right, let's build a different lineup here. That was old. That was old. What do you guys want me to, what kind of stack do you guys want to start with here? Somebody give me at least a quarterback. At least give me a quarterback to build a lineup around. This show is for you. Let's work through it together. You can give me as many players with the quarterback as you want. I'll start the entire lineup around that. One quarterback. Come on now. while we're waiting for somebody to get brave and throw in a chat, don't forget to hit that like button. If you're here for the first time, you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and welcome in. Here we go. Little T-Law. Let's build a Trevor Lawrence stack. We can do that. We can absolutely do that. If I'm playing Trevor Lawrence, I'm double stacking him. And it's going to be with Christian Kirk. It's going to be with Evan Ingram. Easy peasy. Oh, come on now. Right? Talked about earlier, I want to bring my tight ends with him. Look at this. I mean, he's getting the targets. Well, he didn't get crap for targets last week, but he had earlier in the season. Fine games, okay? Now he's against Houston. So for Houston, I saw somebody we said Pierce as a bring back earlier. I'm not a big fan of bringing back Dameon Pierce, but for this lineup, for you all, something you guys talked about, let's do Dameon Pierce. So this is all 1 o'clock here. Okay. It's all 1 o'clock. So 2 things that I want to do already. One, I got plenty of money to go. I'm going to find my afternoon defense, right? A low-owned afternoon defense. And I'm going to go with that Dallas defense we talked about because they are much lower owned than I expected them to be. So I'm going to throw them in for now. I always like to play. We've got 3 games in the afternoon. San Francisco, Carolina. San Francisco is going to be very chalky. Philadelphia, Arizona. I assume Philly would be a little bit more chalky. Rams, Cowboys, and the Rams are chalky. So I'll go with the lower owned team here in the Dallas Cowboys. If I have to get really weird, I could go Panthers, but for now, we're going to slate the Cowboys in there. Okay. Now we can also find some chalk in the afternoon because this Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram is going to be a pretty low owned double stack. Nobody else is going to be playing this in your small field tournaments. So we don't have to get weird anymore. We've already gotten weird with the stack, right? So what I would like to do is get a Philly stack in here and probably just going. Can we just go AJ Brown, Marquise Brown? I really like Devontae Smith better this week. Let's go Devontae Smith, Marquise Brown. Let's put Marquise. He's more expensive in the flex. Okay, so now we've got that, and then we could just go Debo and then find a running back elsewhere. That's kind of what I like. Maybe find a 1 p.m. running back that we like in this 60, 100. Stevenson here at 6,000. I talked about him. He's kind of chalky. But again, we can eat that chalk, remember, because nobody's going to be playing a double stack Trevor Lawrence. So it's okay to have chalk. It's not okay to have an entire lineup full of chalk. Dameon Pierce chalk, Ramondre Stevenson chalk, Debo chalk, but we can get off of him later if we need to. Right? Trevor Lawrence sub 5%. Christian Kirk sub 5%. Evan Ingram sub 10%. That's very unique. So we can eat some of that chalk. I don't mind this build at all. I don't mind this Trevor Lawrence build. Don't mind the Trevor Lawrence. Cooper Rush. All right, we can build a Cooper Rush lineup. Whatever. There's no way in hell I'm playing Cooper Rush. But I will build you a Cooper Rush lineup. I'm here for the people. If the people want Cooper Rush, we'll give them the Red Rocket Jr. and Cooper Rush. Let's say CeeDee Lamb is not playing, so we can go Gallup. And we're going to bring in our tight end because we're double stacking with our tight ends this week. Cooper Rush, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz. And honestly, let's just put Cooper Kupp in here. Because if Cooper Rush is dominating, the Rams are going to be throwing the ball, right? If this lineup is going to hit, that means the Rams are throwing the ball a lot. If the Rams throw the ball a lot, obviously Cooper Kupp is catching the ball a lot. So we'll go there. We'll flip the build on this Philly game, and we'll play the Philly defense. We just play them as a one-off. Honestly, we don't even have to secondary stack them. So now let's find. We're already different in the afternoon now. Cooper Rush, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, Cooper Kupp. That's different. That's unique. We don't need to necessarily get weird in the morning or the early game. So let's find two really good stacks that we like. Really good mini stacks that we like. I talked about it earlier. I really kind of wanted this at a piece of this Atlanta Tampa Bay game. So maybe we go Fournette and Drake London. Right? That's okay. Don't mind that. Now we got 7,300. We can find one more stack. And I'm going to go back to this. I could go Buffalo. I don't really want to go Buffalo. If I was going Buffalo, it would be on one-offs or like overstacking the Bills, right? Double stack the Bills without, like you could go like Devin Singletary, Steph Diggs, right? So you're just saying the Bills are going to dominate, but Josh Allen doesn't get 4 touchdowns. He only gets 2, and they go to Steph Diggs. So you could do that if you wanted to play the Bills. Actually, probably not something I'm going to shy away from this week, but I want to get a Miami double stack in here. And since we've got the salary, we can go big with Tyreek, and we can bring it back. Oh, can't quite get Breece Hall. I was hoping we get Breece in there. We can go Breece Hall and Jalen Waddle, though. That makes plenty of sense as well. So we get a little bit of a stack with that Miami, New York team. Playing Trevor Lawrence and Cooper Rush, man, it really opens up a lot of options. Look at the 7,800 Leonard Fournette, 77 Jalen Waddle, 9,500 Cooper Kupp. That's a pretty solid build, too. It all makes sense, right? You've got really good value in Michael Gallup. Drake London's going to be chalky, but that's okay. We can eat that chalk. So I'm not playing Cooper Rush, but the way the build fits together doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel like I'm forcing anything. We've got 2 12 p.m. mini stacks and then a game stack for the afternoon, and Cooper Rush and Dallas over the Rams. That's what we're looking to do when we build lineups. You're talking yourself into it already. I'm not playing the Cooper Kupp. But I want to explain, like, the lineup itself makes sense. And that doesn't mean it's good lineup, but the way we construct it made sense, right? And Wade Cooper Rush is the quarterback you need this week. Sometimes it's more about our lineup construction than it even is about the players that we're playing. And that might sound incredibly dumb, but I truly believe that. Like, if your lineups are fitting and it tells a story and you can see where we're at, and the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams, they blow up and that game goes for 55, we're there. I just don't believe that's going to happen. Kirk, Robinson, Pierce, Woods, Samuels, like, well, you just built the whole team for me here, but let's do it. Let's see what it looks like, and then let's see if we can find a couple guys around it. Kirk, are we going Christian Kirk? It has to be Christian Kirk, right? Because you didn't put any Robinson. So you're just going to go Jags, Houston stack without the quarterback. Okay. Robert Woods, Deebo Samuel. Oh, I bet you're saying Curtis Samuel on this, right? Robert Woods, Curtis Samuel. Sorry, Deebo's always on my mind, man. Vikings defense. Well, I can tell you one thing. This is weird. We don't have to get weird. We don't have to get weird. The only thing I don't like is I rarely play two running backs from the same game. Maybe that could be a flaw. But truly I don't like James Robinson in here. If I take James Robinson out and it's Dameon Pierce, Christian Kirk mini stack, and it's just those two guys, I'm down for that. Like, that makes sense as a mini stack, right? You're going to tell me that Houston is winning the game. Houston is dominating on the ground. Jacksonville's playing in a come from behind, and Christian Kirk's getting all the action, right? That to me is okay. If you want to say James Robinson is the guy and Brandon Cooks is the one that's coming back, okay. But to go Cooks, Robinson, and Christian Kirk, I don't like that as much. You did say this was Deebo Samuel, which is fine. The only reason I assumed it was Curtis Samuel was because that makes it a mini stack from that game. So you're really kind of building a little bit more of a cash lineup through here, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with a cash lineup if you can find a different way for it to not be a cash lineup at the end of the day. So here, you've already got Deebo for the afternoon, which I'm going to put him in the flex because he's the afternoon. He's super chalky. But there's only 3 games here. Maybe all 3 of these games just fail. Maybe this Philly-Arizona game. Maybe that Philly-Arizona game is where we want to go. Can we go Murray? Can we do a Murray double stack here with this one? Let's do a Murray double stack. Maybe we have to go Rondale. Let's see if I can get Hollywood in here. Can't get Hollywood. Can I get Rondale? If I can get Rondale. Maybe you just go Kyler Murray double stack in the afternoon then. Cash lineup for 12 o'clock. Tournament lineup for 4 o'clock. And it works. I'm not playing Robert Woods one-off, though. Not going to do that. Trip makes a comment here, but we have to be different to win. And so yes, you do have to be different, but you don't have to, you should not be giving up projected points to be different. Right? So, for example, let's pull this up. Let me build a lineup on here for you, right? So Cooper Rush, Gallup. That was a Gallup, right? And Dalton Schultz. He's a tight end. And what did we do? We brought it back with Cooper Kupp. Okay. So in that lineup, you used 26.8 salary, and you get a 47-point projected total for those 4 players. Okay. Can I see the ownership here? I don't think I can see the ownership. I could add it up, but there's no total down here. All right. Now, if I clear that, let's just say we're going to do the Jalen Hurts double stack. So what was that? 26.8 and 47 points. Jalen Hurts, I like Smith better and Goddard. And I'm going to bring this back with Hollywood. Oh, he's not. His name's not Hollywood. Marquise. Okay, so now I've spent 3,000 more, right? 29.3. So it is 3,000 more. 59 points. So over 11 points in projections by running a higher, more chalky players, right? 20% and 12%. But I'm also still sprinkling in these less owned guys in Hollywood and Devontae Smith. So it's still different, but it's got way better projections. So we can get different without giving up projected ownership or projected points. Excuse me. Right? So I don't want you to lose the idea of we still have to have good plays. We still have to play the good plays. We just want to try to be different with good projections around those good plays. Those other plays, right? So let's build that Hurts lineup that I just put out there. And then we can get out of here. Okay. We know Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks on the slate. It just is going to happen. But Devontae Smith isn't. He's projecting just fine. He's projecting for 11. AJ Brown's projecting for 14. AJ Brown's not even projected that much ownership. But we save $1,400 by playing Smith, which is why that's why I want to play Smith this week. Okay. And we can go to Hollywood. And we can go to Goddard. Here we go. So we already know what this looks like. We already know it's the afternoon. We already know it could be a little bit higher owned. Okay. We can go high. A really weird way I like to also do that is like the 49ers are going to be chalk and Deebo Samuel is going to be chalk. But is Deebo Samuel with the 49ers going to be chalk? Is that a combination that everybody's going to play? What do most people play? Most people are going to play Jeff Wilson. Most people play running backs as a secondary stack with their defense. I am one of those most people. But maybe you play a guy like Deebo who's got all this utility and he's used out of the backfield and on quick slants and on deep passes. I'm going to use him with San Francisco defense. So now what do I do in the morning or at noon? Right? I can't get super chalky. I told you guys earlier I like Damian Harris. Okay, so what if I put in, all right, defense, San Francisco. Okay, now they're a little bit more chalky. Flex, I was going to go Deebo. And then Harris. Harris helps that projected ownership because he's sub 10%. Right? He's helping that. Now I can get a cheap stack here. I could go Mostert, which I told you guys earlier I liked. And I could bring back a Jet here and a Garrett Wilson. Earlier, Trent mentioned Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson out of this. I can have a really strong core stack and double stack while also still being different. Okay. I can still be different to win. I can still be different to get to the top of the mountain. Let me show you real fast and we'll get out of here. Right. This $50 league contest is the one I play in every single week. It's only got 68 people in here. So if you want to play, jump on in. Okay. But it's $50. This is why we want to be at the top. It pays out $1,000 to number one, 112 people. If you can beat 111 other entries, you'll win $1,000. Okay. If you end up 23rd place, if you end up 12th, so you could be in the top 10%, 11%, whatever it is, you win $125. Not bad, but that's not even 3 weeks of playing this contest. But if you can be different just a little bit and catapult yourself to number one, you paid for one entry in this lineup, in this contest for the entire 18 weeks of the season. The top of all these tournaments is where all the money is. Min cashing is fine. You're not going to be mad about that week. But getting to the top is that's why we got to be different. And you got to be different in the right ways. And that's hard. Like this game is hard still, right? And that's what I'm hoping I can help you. Hope hope I can help you learn some of these things and some of these nuggets, pass them along to you all so you all can win some tournaments this week. That's about all for tonight. I appreciate you all being here. It definitely ran long. I just looked at the clock. That's my fault. But it was fun. I'm happy we got to build some of those extra lineups together. You all were great. Thank you for being so active. Thank you for joining me. One more time, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share the channel with your friends and your family. Get everybody in here. Check out my season-long podcast, Another Damn Fantasy Podcast, powered by Stadium Rant. You can find us on Apple or Spotify. My co-host Dan and I, we break it down every week. Season-long for season-long fantasy. We'll give you all the tips and trades we can over there. You can find a link in the description of this podcast. Go check us out. Follow me on Facebook at The Rumbles of Red. Twitter at Trevor S_FF. Good luck in week 5, and may the money be in your favor.